This is the northern cardinal. The northern cardinal is Illinois' official state bird. The northern cardinal won't be the only thing flying high tonight in Illinois. I think that's an awesome transition, by the way. Governor Pritzker, governor of Illinois, has signed a bill into law, first of its kind throughout the nation, legalizing marijuana. But it goes further than that, which is what I want to talk about. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. And yes, the governor of Illinois has signed a bill into law that has legalized pot. Now, this is awesome, by the way, because it goes beyond just legalizing pot. It goes into expunging the records of 770,000 people who were arrested for pot charges, meaning minor pot charges. That is astounding. And by the way, that is the first in this nation to do such a thing. Certain bills have tried to go through New York, certain bills have tried to go through other states, but ultimately these bills have always, up to this point, failed to do what they were trying to accomplish. So in this case, the governor gets a thumbs up like nobody's business. Understand, from the standpoint of marijuana legislation and the laws that were passed, this kind of drug laws and everything else, it's taken a life of its own, but understand where it started. The point in this was to lock up blacks and hippies. This is not my conjecture. This is a done deal at this point. This is understood. This is a plan that Nixon put into place in order to settle personal vendettas or political vendettas. And again, this is not my perspective. This is a done deal. This is literally what Nixon did. And that essentially took a life of its own, where the moment that you create an agency that goes after drug dealers, that agency believes that it's vital and important, and it continues to do that. It takes a perspective based on the way it was created. But the reality of it is the creation of this stuff, all of this drug law, to lock up blacks and hippies. Nixon was concerned that they were going to create a political bloc, and that the political bloc was going to get him out of office, especially going around the issues of the Vietnam War. If you remember back during that time, they considered Martin Luther King a Marxist or a communist, and they were trying to find ways to essentially ward off this kind of civil rights movement, and especially not letting that civil rights movement connect with these kind of anti-war protesters. That was the plan. He had an African-American president who was in office that was a full-on pothead in our understanding of it, and still didn't necessarily do anything about this very particular issue. Well, states are going through and states are doing things about this issue. In this case, Illinois has taken an amazing step. My point is this: the fact that this started in this way, and to this day, we have a disproportionate number of African Americans that are locked up for drug-related crimes, despite the fact that we use pot in the same numbers as whites and everyone else. Doing this, expunging the record of 770,000 people, is a step towards justice. And I say that in real-world terms. Do you honestly believe that people should be put in prison or locked up or have their lives torn apart in the kind of legal system for smoking pot? And why do you believe that there's this huge disparity in the way that people who drink, meaning alcohol, and yet are okay locking up stoners? I guess I'm thinking in these terms. You can have an alcoholic cop that put a stoner in prison, and in no way makes an issue with the fact that he's an alcoholic, that guy's using pot, and that he is somehow better, or that the guy who he's putting in prison is doing something worse. This is a step towards justice. You have a lot of people who have their lives torn apart for something like this. And good on Illinois for taking this step. And just to give a little bit of details, the article makes the point that in many other cases, this went through this went through a referendum. But the public itself says, yes, we want this legalized. Illinois is unique because Illinois went through state legislature, meaning the legislature approved this. I hope you understand the difference. So just to give the basics. Marijuana remains illegal at the federal level, but since 2014, federal prosecutors have generally ignored marijuana sales in 10 states that have legalized personal use. Alaska, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Oregon, Nevada, Vermont, and Washington, along with the District of Columbia. In all of these states, with the exception of Vermont, voters approved legalization. Vermont legislatively approved measures that permits personal growing, use, but not sales. Illinois state allows residents to buy and possess up to 30 grams of cannabis flower, along with marijuana-infused foods known as edibles in small amounts of highly concentrated extracts. Non-residents could buy half the amount. Now, this is interesting. Consumers will pay up to 34.75% sales tax on their purchases depending on the potency. Regulators will give preference points to members of minority groups seeking to get business licenses in state-certified labs would test products for potency and contaminants, a growing concern among users. Backers said that the measure will create jobs in communities around the state, and arguments made by Canadian officials when legalized marijuana national last year. An argument made, essentially, this will create jobs. Of course it's going to create jobs. Think of all the people who weren't allowed to get into the legal market of selling pot, but now they can. Not to mention getting rid of this notion of crime. Because think of the amount of resources that were being spent locking up stoners. Those resources could be put elsewhere. Think of those people who are taking up time from the standpoint of the judicial system. Those resources can be used elsewhere. And not just used elsewhere, almost flipped on their head, because instead of being criminalized, these people can create decent businesses. There's a libertarian argument to this. There is a rational argument to this. And there's even a do we really want state resources being used in this way argument to this. I find this to be a win-win across the board. Shout out to Illinois Governor Pritzker. I am going to give what I haven't, which is going to be the first of its kind, and I'm going to give a burning salute to Governor Pritzker and the great state of Illinois. Just so you know what I'm talking about. The great state of Illinois made greater still on Tuesday when they signed that bill into law. This is going to go into effect in January, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, this goes into effect in January. But nevertheless, shout out to Illinois. And by the way, the money for this is going to go to expunging the record of 770,000 records that are or people who have marijuana records. Bam, they're going to be gone. It's also going to go to rehab, and any other money is just going to go to the government's general fund. The government is probably going to make a ton of money off of this. If I'm not mistaken, Colorado is bringing in billions of dollars and surpass what people thought they were going to make with marijuana being legalized, meaning from taxes. So, it's awesome. It's awesome. You can get pot in Washington. You can get pot in Maryland. The catch here is you can't buy it, but you can gift it. So I can go to somebody who has pot, and they can say, look, you could buy this ink pen for $40. And I will give you this pot if you buy this ink pen for $40. You're free to deny taking that pot, but it's yours if you want to take it. It's like, oh, okay, I'll take it if you're going to give it to me. And you walk away with an awesome bag of pot. But in this case, it's legal recreationally. And again, they are expunging the record of 770,000 people who got caught for minor marijuana offenses. Man, that's awesome. God, that's awesome. I love it. Governor Pritzker and the great state of Vermont, I'm giving you a burning salute. And I welcome everybody else who's watching this show to also, at the exact same time I am doing this, give a burning salute to Illinois. This is the first salute of its kind that I am aware of, and I am giving it. Shout out to Illinois. Fucking A. Shout out to Illinois. Let's see. There are people here. Pop Reality. It's the first economic reparative justice for ADOS. That's interesting, right? I mean, because keep in mind what we're saying. 4 times as many African Americans get popped for marijuana. We use it the same amount. 4 times as many get popped for it. Not to mention we get longer sentences in getting popped for it. We're targeted in this. I don't know how people can make the argument otherwise. Whatever argument you want to make as to why, let's just acknowledge that that is taking place. If you're going to expunge the records of all of these people, a lot of these people are going to be minorities. A lot of these people are going to be benefited by this expunging of the record. So not only are you legalizing something that people are getting popped for that are minorities, you're also getting rid of those records. Fucking A. I like, you have no idea how much I like this. And when I make this argument that there's an identity aspect to it, that's just somewhat of a flat fact. I don't know how that's disputed. Nixon did start that drug war out of racist ideas or intent. Nate Sliver. The Illinois governor was clearly just stealing the ideas from Bernie, who stole it from Warren, who stole it from Bernie, who stole it from Hillary Clinton, who stole it from Bernie. I've confirmed it with statistics. Political super analyst Nate Sliver. Do you know Nate Silver put out a tweet yesterday where Nate Silver says something like, how did he say this? He says, centrist progressives in the Democratic Party, or something like that. And somebody says, what the hell is a centrist progressive? Or establishment progressives. That was it. Establishment progressives. Jeffrey Long. Illinois is on a mission from God. Illinois is on a mission from God. It's not the microphone. Speak up. Oh, I'm not speaking loud. I'm sorry. I'm low energy today for some reason. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think it's the microphone. My microphone is turned up. And so if it's anything, it's me not speaking loud. But yeah, Illinois. Shout out to Illinois. Central progressives, we be like TYT. Yeah, that's what he's talking about. That's exactly what he's talking about. What time does the debate start? I think it starts at 7, but I need to check that. And yes, I'm going to cover that debate, so absolutely. Environmental facts, it's so disappointing. 35% of sales tax for recreational. Yeah, that's going to be a high sales tax. They are going to, man. But by the same token, I would rather them tax it and take that revenue to be used for something, substantial, as opposed to putting those people in jail or giving those people a hard time. 9 p.m. Okay, 9 to 11, that's when the debate starts. Spark it up is what I said. I say, no, my bad. Spark it up is what I said. Oh, spark it up. Yeah. Spark it up. Debates are at 9 p.m. Okay, debates are at 9 p.m. The debates are at 9 p.m. Balthazar, who's doing the drinking challenge? I don't know who's doing the drinking challenge. I say bong hit challenge. I don't like alcohol. I'm not a fan of alcohol. My body doesn't tolerate it well. I had an alcoholic grandfather. I have qualms about alcohol like nobody's business. Pot, do it up all day. And in medical cannabis, it's not high enough in THC to really get a therapeutic dose. Well, look, if you're buying it in Maryland or if you're buying it in DC, the quality and the content of it is strong. It is strong. Playing chess while the debate. Oh, no, I'm watching the debate. It's 6 p.m. out here in California. Yeah, I'm on East Coast. I'm on East Coast. All right, I'm going to end this here, but Illinois, blaze one if you got one. In reverence for Illinois, spark it up. Shout out to Illinois. Balthazar, I died when the Colorado pot tax that paid for school failed, and the one that used it to create a marijuana task force passed in 2014. Wait, what is a marijuana task force? I haven't heard of that. What a marijuana task force. I'm sorry. I died when the Colorado pot tax that paid for school failed, and the one that used it to create a marijuana task force passed in 2014. Yeah, they're trying to find almost like a laboratory thing of how to make this work. And Colorado and Illinois may be leading the way on this. I don't have this expectation that these things are going to be successful in each and every time in the way they go about it. However, I do want this decriminalized. Even if they screw up on implementation, I want it decriminalized. I do not want people being put in the cages or have their lives ruined, meaning having to pay for lawyers and all this other stuff for something that no one dies from. Like, you can argue with me that if people get behind the wheel of a car, it can, yes, I agree, just like it with alcohol. But the hypocrisy of having alcohol to be legalized and pot not is shameful. And the fact that police still harass people and still, it's against the law, is shameful. The thing that you have part of the country where people are legal, free to do something, and in other parts of the exact same country, they are not, and may be put in cages for it. That is shameful. It's time that this needs to change. The flow of history is going in a particular way with this. It's time to get on board. Shout out to Illinois. Those records should be expunged. I would even argue that those people who are smoking pot are political prisoners. That's hyperbolic, but to some degree, why is it not true? They're being put in prison for doing something that the government is saying that they don't want them to do, that those people are saying the government has no right to tell us that we shouldn't be able to do it. So, that's what I'm at. Not to mention the racial element of more blacks being put in prison for something. A plant. Smoking a plant. I'll leave it here. Shout out to Illinois. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through PayPal or Patreon. You know, it's funny. My wife's video on the Sudan got demonetized. And you know, you hit the button to try to get them to review the video. They reviewed the video on Sudan and they still demonetized it. I told her, I said, you know, they demonetized your video on Sudan and they confirmed the demonetization. She says, I didn't do anything in that video. I didn't even say anything that was that bad. I said, I know. They've been doing that across the board. They've been doing that across the board. And here's the catch. It creates a disincentive to do videos like that. In my head, I say, fuck you, I'm doing those videos anyway. But in general, people who are doing videos who say, I want to cover stuff like Sudan because that's something that I care about. That's something that I think is important in the grand scheme of world politics. And even though I don't necessarily live there, I cover news. It's news. People are getting injured. I want to cover that. And YouTube looks at that and says, yeah, that's beyond our rule set. You can cover it, but we're not going to give you money for it. Yes, you can have it on our channel. You can be bringing people to our network, meaning our show on YouTube. But we're not going to pay you for that because we're making an argument that advertisers don't like the fact that you're showing stuff, not even showing anything, just talking about it. They don't like you even talking about it. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to like, share, subscribe. You can always support PayPal through Patreon. Even $1 helps. Thanks all. I'll see you momentarily. And by the way, I'm going to be on By Any Means Necessary this evening at 3 to 4 on Sputnik. Not Sputnik. Yo, it is Sputnik. So, I'll see you guys then. I may be able to squeeze in another show. And why is my system being weird? I may be able to squeeze in another show. But either way, have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.